This is Janet Diane Moria Swerdlow with another podcast, our news podcast for the middle of February already. I just can't believe it. And Stewart is on his way home as I speak, and by the time you watch this, he should actually be here. So you're going to be missing him, but I have some news that's fascinating, and unfortunately we will not get to hear his comments, but please leave me your comments. So here we go. The WHO, the World Health Organization, has declared the Zika virus a global health emergency. Now, of course, this is going on all over the internet. First we had Ebola, and then we had AIDS, and so on and so forth, taking it all the way back. Now we have Zika, because they're trying to do everything that they can to get you vaccinated, and of course, it's for population control. So, according to the WHO, it said last week that the Zika virus was spreading explosively and could infect as many as 4 million people in the Americas. And of course, then they say they were criticized for reacting too slowly to the Ebola epidemic in West Africa, which supposedly killed more than 10,000 people. But as you know, we question all of that. But anyway, the Zika virus, here we are. Next step in the process of trying to get you vaccinated. Anyway, then ISIS in the news. Now, ISIS launches its first official Android app to broadcast terror. And again, I'm telling you, you know what? If I put something on my website, I'm sure it would be down in an instant. So why they can't find these people and shut them down? Well, you know why? Because they want this fear-mongering to go out into the public and make you very, very afraid so you are more controllable. Anyway, apparently there's what they call deep web analysts who discovered the app. It's being distributed by the group's supporters on social media and ISIS forums. It allows listeners to tune into live broadcasts, and it says it's another way that the Islamic State is distributing its messages to sympathizers worldwide. And again, shut them down. They could do that to me if I was doing such a thing without a problem, so they could shut it down if they wanted it shut down. Next, there is a lawsuit that's happening in the state of Maryland on behalf of John and Melissa Wood because they accuse La Plata High School of forcing their child to convert to Islam. They said that children are learning they're forcing children to profess the Muslim statement of faith, ordering them to memorize the 5 pillars of Islam, and teaching that the faith of a Muslim is stronger than the average Christian. Now, the lawsuit says that students spent only 1 day studying Christianity and 2 weeks studying Islam. They have a brief instruction on Christianity. They fail to cover any portion of the Bible or other non-Islamic religious texts, such as the 10 Commandments. Instead, the class is discussing the Christianity in a disparaging way, and the Pope, which of course I always discuss in a disparaging way too, but anyway, it's not about me. Students were allegedly instructed that the Islamic religion is a fact, while Christianity and Judaism are just beliefs. And so the lawsuit says that it's a discriminatory treatment of Christianity and an unconstitutional promotion of one religion over the other. Now, I always thought they weren't supposed to discuss religion in school, but here you have it. So it'll be interesting to see if we hear any more about this lawsuit. And here in the U.S. military leaders are now saying that women should have to register for the draft, along with men, as the military moves toward integrating them fully into combat positions. And of course, that's really no surprise. I saw that one coming. I'm sure you did too. So it will happen sooner or later, I am sure. And I have been keeping you informed about the armed standoff in Burns, Oregon on the Malheur Wildlife Refuge, because as you know, that was an area where I used to live not too terribly long ago, so to speak. Anyway, the Pacific Patriots Network apparently organized a rally through the town and said it planned more demonstrations to protest the killing of one occupier last week and the presence of numerous heavily armed law enforcement officers at the standoff. Well, what do they expect if they're going to occupy federal buildings? B.J. Soper, who's a Burns resident and organizer of the rally that drew more than 100 people and dozens of U.S. and Confederate flag-covered vehicles, says, quote, "Our goal is to show the country that this county does support what is going on." Anyway, apparently there are 4 people occupying the wildlife refuge, and they have demanded that they be allowed to leave without being arrested. Their group leader, Ammon Bundy, is now in jail, and 10 others were arrested earlier in the week, and those are still in custody. Now, Bundy, through his lawyer, said or called on the remaining occupiers to leave, and the FBI says it's trying to resolve the situation peacefully. However, the criminal complaint against Bundy showed an online video saying that the group planned to stay for several years. He called on people to come out here and stand. We need you to bring your arms. As Stewart and I have been telling you, this is some of the precursors to the upcoming Civil War that we believe is planned. Now, you might have heard of Apple, of course, but have you heard of Alphabet? And maybe I've heard of it, but maybe it just didn't stick in my head. But anyway, Alphabet is passing Apple to become the most valuable traded U.S. company. Apparently, Alphabet was formerly known as Google. And apparently, in July, the company restructured, formed a new holding company, and split into two parts. Google includes its search engine, YouTube, and related parts of the company, while a unit called Other Bets included its moonshot, such as self-driving cars, and encompasses Google Capital, which is the secretive X research division, and Nest, which offers smart home accessories. So when we hear things like that, what exactly is Google? What is Alphabet? And obviously it was named so that in alphabetical order it would pass up Apple because AL comes before AP. So keep your eye out on that stock and also on its research projects that they might decide to let you in on. And we have a SETI scientist that claims that ETs will have the upper hand thanks to its superior technologies. Jill Tarter, who is a scientist, claims that any alien capable of finding Earth may be cooperative, but she feels their advanced technology will give them the upper hand, and this technological superiority will ultimately lead them to making the rules. So that's, again, no surprise. And they keep putting it out there about aliens visiting Earth. That's not going to change either. And in Missouri and Kansas, speaking of aliens, law enforcement officials issued an alert after cattle were found and mutilated. Apparently, there was a bull that was killed and mutilated on the 18th of December, back in 2015, and its parts were removed. 2 cows were killed and gutted on December 28th of 2015. And then on the 1st of the year, there was a cow killed, and its eyeballs, including its eyelashes and eyebrows on the top and bottom, were removed, and apparently they said that it was surgically removed, and they didn't really discuss the others, but that's the way they made it sound. So they're wanting people to install surveillance cameras, and they said that obviously this was Sheriff T. Walton. He said they were killed, quote, not by animals, but it appeared that it had been surgically removed, so that heightened us a little bit. But they still are saying that it's poachers, so let's see what happens, and if we hear any more about that one. And of course, I have been telling you about a lot of mutant creatures that are being found lately. And here on a Caribbean island, there was what they're calling an alien fish. The animal had 2 feet with toes, no fins, and a perfect human nose, a long bone on its back, and wings and tail that looked extremely complicated. And local fishermen don't know what it is, but there's a picture of it. You can go to the link and find that out. Now, also, we have talked a lot about bankers who were dying in apparent suicide. Then we talked a lot about alternative doctors that were dying in apparently suicide. And guess what now? We have chefs that are dying in apparent suicide. So let's take a look at this. Apparently, they are calling him a legendary chef. Benoit Voilier has died, and what police say was an apparent suicide. Authorities say that he was found dead at his home in Switzerland. Now, he's only 44 years old. He was ranked as Switzerland's best in the world. And so why would he commit suicide? That doesn't make any sense. So then let's go back, because I thought, okay, who else died? I remember telling you about, back in July, that the former White House executive chef Walter Scheib died. His body was discovered near a New Mexico mountain hiking trail. They claimed of an accidental drowning. He was 61, the top chef for Presidents Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and they found him supposedly after he left for a hike. He didn't come home, and they claimed that he was drowned. So And he was an experienced climber. So then I thought, okay, let me look and see if anybody else died. And back in April of 2015, Homaru Kantu was found dead. And he also was a promising chef, only 38 years old. Apparently, he spent 4 years as a chef at Charlie Trotter's famed Lincoln Park restaurant before opening the critically acclaimed Moto. And they're calling this a suicide. After Trotter's death, who he studied under, Cantu and other Trotter chef alums created the Trotter Project, a 3-year capital campaign with dozens of former Trotter employees and family members. He was president of the project aimed at mentoring high school and college students and teaching young children how to cook. So, in my opinion, this does not sound like somebody who is suicidal. However, what I wanted to tell you was somebody recently told me that at a very famous restaurant that a lot of famous people came for a private dinner, and all these famous people were wearing masks so that the servers would not recognize them. So this tells me that all these chefs were probably privy to cooking for very important people, and perhaps they also had secrets. So I don't believe that these people committed suicide, and I don't believe this one chef of the former White House executive chef had an accidental drowning. I don't believe that something happened to these people. So keep your eye out for chef deaths now. And in New Zealand, they have been hit with a string of what they're calling vampire attacks. Apparently, this was on the 2nd of February, so it says, over the past 2 days, a woman was accused of biting a man's neck so hard her teeth cut through her artery. Another woman was arrested after chomping on a woman's ear. And then, a few hours later, in a separate incident at another place, a woman was involved in a brawl and bit the man on the neck, and he lost so much blood he had to go to a hospital in serious condition. And then another bar owner reported that he had never seen these people before, that they were not local. So where did they come from? He said, we have a nice restaurant, we have a dance floor, we have nice people having a great time, but for some reason that couple clearly didn't. And then there was another person bitten during a family violence incident earlier the same week. And the police are saying that it is, quote, a little bit weird. So think on that one. And then, of course, the Kardashians are always doing things that are very bizarre. But again, this is the way they imprint the public. So I wanted to report on this one because apparently they said that the entire family was preparing for Kim Kardashian's surprise 35th birthday celebration. So if it was surprising, it's all over the news. How much surprise can that be? But anyway, they decided to don fake pregnancy bellies. Now, they're calling it the baby bumped theme feet. It was created by her husband, Kanye West, who's 38. He said Kanye asked everyone to dress like Kim and put on a fake baby bump so that she felt more comfortable. Now, from what I have seen of Kim Kardashian, I don't really think there's anything that would make her feel uncomfortable. So why they would do this, again, I think it's a way of imprinting you. And I have told you before about Princess Charlotte, Kate's baby. And we don't really know if Kate gave birth or she had a surrogate. Because as you remember, not too long before her pregnancy was announced, I did report that Prince William and Harry had supposedly an older sister born by surrogate, if you remember that story, and that story has totally vanished. So let's see what happens, but I think it's very, very odd. Anyway, moving along, Nicole Kidman says women will make better mothers if they return to work or they risk living vicariously through their children, which I don't happen to believe that. I think it's best if mothers or another parent or relative can watch the children because they need that kind of care. Apparently she loves being with her daughters, but she still says it's better to work. And she says the whole family benefits if the mother has a creative outlet. And then she says she'd love to adopt another child but doesn't have time. So again, this is the way they're imprinting people. And of course, as we move further into androgyny, we have Ryan Reynolds and his wife Blake Lively, who just recently named their newborn daughter James. Now, James, of course, is traditionally a boy's name, but he claims it was a tribute to his late father, James C. Reynolds. And then he says, you know, in the weird spectrum With the spectrum of weird celebrity baby names, I feel like we're not really breaking any new ground. He says, again, quote, I didn't call her summer squash meadowlark or something. So, well, James, let's see what happens. But again, we're getting more toward androgyny and they're imprinting you. Now, speaking of strange trends, I had reported last week about the woman who said that she was interspecies, that she was born in the wrong body. We've talked about the movie The Revenant, where interspecies sex, which I said that's going toward the New World religion. And somebody told me about other kin, which is, again, people who think that there should be an animal. And so I looked that one up. You can look that up online for yourself because, everybody's got a reason why they're doing it, so I don't want to take up your time. However, there is a new trend online where people take giant teddy bears and they rip out all their stuffing and then they get inside of it and dance around inside of the teddy bear costume, I guess you could say. So I found that bizarre, and especially if you remember, Miley Cyrus had dancing teddy bears all around her as well. So there's a lot of programming triggers going on. We talked about bears and how it's tied to Russia. We talked about teddy bears, how that's tied to your childhood programming and all kinds of things like that. So again, all kinds of bizarre things going on. Do not participate. You can observe what's going on out there, but it doesn't mean you have to do it just because you see it. And I want to remind you that I have now posted the detailed itinerary for my Clear Energy, Health, and Healing Spiritual Tour in the Codian Alps in northern Italy, Waldensian country. I'm very excited now that that's posted. I'm still waiting on the prices for the small vans we're going to be renting, but I'm hoping to get those pricing this week. So people are now starting to register and reserve their places. So please contact Patricia, customer support at expansions.com. Read about it on the website. Please go to Facebook, like our friends page, our fan page, Expansions, and ask your friends to like it and share because that helps boost us up in the search engine. So I appreciate everything that you're doing to grow, to not participate in what's going on in the world, but yet to keep yourself informed. I also look forward to seeing you on the member side of our blog because that's where a lot of the work happens. And I look forward to seeing you in Italy. And next week, Stewart will be back, so we'll see what he has to say. Thank you for joining me, Janet Diane Moya Swerdlow, expansions.com.